You know those days where you're just trying to grab some microwave comfort food, minding your own business, and then bam, you're suddenly starring in your own personal episode of Karen V's Common Sense. Yeah, well, buckle up because I've got a story for you about one of those days. It was a pretty mundane afternoon. I was in the commissary, the military grocery store, dressed in my uniform, just trying to get my weekly rations of instant noodles and frozen burritos. You know, the good stuff. I was focused, probably humming some random tune, when this woman, let's call her Karen, because honestly the shoe fits perfectly, materialized beside me. She was wearing a sharp, expensive-looking jacket, had a designer purse clutched in her hand, and an air of entitlement that could clear a room. "Excuse me," she snapped, not even bothering with a please. "Can you get me that jar of artisanal pickles from the top shelf? My arm isn't quite long enough." Now, I'm generally a helpful guy, and being in uniform, people often assume you're an employee even in non-military settings, so in the commissary, it's even more common. Plus, it was just one item. I obliged, reaching up and handing her the jar. "Here you go, ma'am." Instead of a thank you, her eyes immediately scanned my trolley. "Perfect, you're clearly good at this." "Now, if you wouldn't mind, I have a rather extensive list here," she declared, pulling out a folded piece of paper that looked like a grocery scroll. "I need help with my canned goods, then I need you to find my specific brand of organic. Gluten-free, fair trade coffee, it's usually on the third aisle, and then, when we're done, you can help me load everything into my car." She said it all in one breath, as if it were the most natural request in the world. My eyebrows probably hit my hairline. "Ma'am," I started, trying to keep my tone even, "I appreciate you asking, but I actually don't work here. I'm just doing my own shopping." That's when the shift happened. You could almost hear a little click in her brain as her Karen mode fully engaged. Her face, which had been expecting subservience, contorted into a frown. "Don't work here, don't be ridiculous, you're in uniform." "Of course you work here, you're trying to get out of doing your job, aren't you? This is precisely the kind of insubordination that warrants disciplinary action." I blinked. "Ma'am, I'm a customer just like you. I'm not staff, and I'm certainly not insubordinate to you." Her voice rose a few decibels. "Oh, you think this is a joke? I'll have you know my husband is a very important officer. I could report you. You'll be lucky if you don't get an Article 13 slapped on you for this." An Article 13 on me for not fetching her artisanal pickles. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh out loud. An Article 13 is for minor offenses against good order and discipline within the military, and it comes from my chain of command, not some random commissary shopper. "With all due respect, ma'am," I said, my patience wearing thin, "you're not an officer. And you're definitely not in my chain of command. An Article 13 is absolutely irrelevant here." She just puffed up, ignoring my explanation entirely. "That's it. I'm going to find the manager, and I'm going to make sure you're properly reprimanded. This is unacceptable service." She started gesticulating wildly, drawing more than a few curious stares from other shoppers. At this point, I was done, completely. My annoyance curdled into a mischievous grin. I decided to play my trump card, a quiet little jab I'd noticed often brought entitled people down a peg. I leaned in just a fraction, my voice dropping to a calm, almost sympathetic tone. "You know, ma'am," I said, meeting her angry glare, "I can't help but wonder if your husband, the very important officer, would be particularly proud of how you're treating people right now, especially another service member just trying to do his shopping." And just like that, the color drained from her face. Her jaw went slack, and her furious expression melted into one of utter shock and, dare I say, dawning horror. Her eyes darted around, suddenly hyper-aware of the growing crowd of onlookers who were now definitely paying attention. The loud, blustery confidence evaporated, leaving behind a woman who looked like she just swallowed a lemon whole. I didn't wait for a response. I just picked up my microwave meals, gave her a slight nod, and calmly walked away, leaving her standing there, a crumpled grocery list still clutched in her hand, her face a peculiar shade of crimson and purple. As I navigated around an aisle, I glanced back. She was still frozen, her mouth opening and closing silently like a fish, obviously trying to process what had just happened. When I finally reached the exit, I saw her again, still standing there, but now several other shoppers were openly snickering, some even miming her earlier gesticulations. A few people gave me subtle nods or shared knowing glances as I passed, and I couldn't help but feel a warm surge of vindication. She, Dee, made a complete fool of herself, not just to me, but to everyone within earshot. I never saw Karen again in the commissary. I like to think she got the message that day that entitlement doesn't fly, especially when you're barking up the wrong tree. But then again, some people are just impervious to learning. Either way, my burritos tasted extra good that night. So yes, that's the story of the woman who thought she could boss me around but ended up learning, or at least being shown, a very public lesson. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you all next time.
If you're still watching, you're clearly into this stuff. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got more stories just like these. Now, on to the last one.
You know how sometimes a minor inconvenience can snowball into an absolute disaster for someone else? Well, for Carl, it was less of a snowball and more of an avalanche, and I, Jasmina, got a front row seat to the whole messy collapse. It all started on a particularly dreary Tuesday at the impound lot where I used to work customer service. Carl, a man whose patience seemed to have been surgically removed at birth, stormed in, demanding his vehicle. Now Carl's car wasn't just left with us. It had been legally impounded for a pile of unpaid tickets, and he hadn't exactly been prompt in picking it up. So the fees, they were astronomical. I remember clearly explaining in my calmest customer service voice that we couldn't release the car until all outstanding charges were settled. That's when Carl, this seemingly ordinary guy in a faded baseball cap, just snapped. His face, already red, turned a shade of mottled purple. He started screaming at me, calling me every name under the sun, accusing the company of theft, and generally acting like a deranged toddler who just had his favorite toy confiscated. I tried to de-escalate, believe me. Sir, I understand your frustration, but there's nothing I can do until the payment is made. Big mistake, that just fueled his fire. He slammed his fist onto the counter, making my monitor jump, and leaned right into my face, his breath reeking of stale coffee and desperation. You listen here, bitch, he snarled, you get my car back. Or I'll make sure you regret ever showing your face in this dump. That was it, that crossed the line. My manager, sensing the rapidly escalating threat, had already called security. The police arrived shortly after, and Carl, still sputtering threats and obscenities, found himself in handcuffs, being escorted out for assault and making terroristic threats. The aftermath of that first incident was a domino effect. Carl was formally charged, which, as you can imagine, wasn't a great look for him. Not long after, we heard through the grapevine that his ex-partner, who he had been in a bitter custody battle with, used the police report and the assault charges as leverage. Carl lost provisional custody of his son. And because of his violent conduct on company property, our legal team moved to permanently seize his vehicle to cover the damages and outstanding fees. Months passed, I got a new job, a much quieter one, far away from impound lots and angry customers. I was finally feeling a sense of peace, believing Carl was just a bad memory, a cautionary tale I'd occasionally tell at parties. Then one sunny Saturday afternoon, I was browsing the new arrivals section at a local independent bookstore, enjoying the quiet hum of page-turning and soft jazz. I turned a corner and there he was, Carl. Thinner, a bit shabbier, with a wild, desperate look in his eyes. He recognized me immediately, a flicker of something unsettling crossing his face. Jasmina, he choked out, his voice hoarse. He cornered me between a shelf of classic literature and a display of graphic novels. Jasmina, you're the only one who can help me. My heart hammered against my ribs. Help him after what he did. My blood ran cold, but I forced myself to stay outwardly calm. Carl, I said, my voice carefully neutral, I don't work there anymore. And even if I did, there's nothing I could do for you. His face crumpled, then hardened. You ruined my life, you took my car, my son, you have to help me get it back. He started raising his voice, attracting curious glances from other patrons. He lunged slightly, his hand reaching out as if to grab my arm. No, Carl, I said, firmly stepping back. I can't help you, you need to leave me alone. That's when the switch flipped again. You bitch, you did this to me, you owe me. he roared, a familiar, terrifying rage contorting his features. Bookshelves rattled as he slammed his hand against a nearby shelf. The store manager, a kind but no-nonsense woman, was already making her way over, phone to her ear. This time, the police arrived even quicker. The manager gave a statement, I gave a statement, and Carl, for the second time, was arrested for assault. This time, there was no doubt. The vehicle, already legally in our company's possession, was formally liquidated. His ex-partner, with 2 police reports detailing his volatile behavior, secured full, undisputed custody of their son, and Carl found himself with a felony record that would follow him forever. As I watched him being led away again, there wasn't a triumphant cheer inside me, just a cold, hard sense of justice. Carl had been given a chance, a clear consequence, and he'd chosen to repeat his mistakes, to lash out at the person who was just doing their job. Sometimes the avalanche isn't a random act of nature. It's the sum of a man's own choices, picking up speed, burying him under the weight of his own actions. And yeah, a part of me felt a grim satisfaction that he finally faced the full consequences.
You ever have one of those days where you just want to vanish into a rack of discount t-shirts? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. Because my innocent attempt to help a struggling mom find the toy aisle ended with her calling the cops on me and accusing me of assault. In friggin' Target. So I've been clocking hours at the big red bullseye for a while now, mostly in electronics. You see some things, man. But nothing quite prepares you for the sheer, unadulterated chaos of a woman, convinced you're the spawn of Satan for trying to be helpful. I was just trying to look busy, fluffing HDMI cables on an end cap, when I overheard a fellow team member getting absolutely grilled by a woman. She had a kid, maybe 8 or 9, clutching her hand like a stress ball. The team member was patiently giving directions to toys, but Lady, let's call her that, was not having it. Her voice was already starting to climb, a huffy, impatient tone about how these directions make no sense. And can't you just tell me where it is? My customer service reflexes, honed over years of retail, just kicked in. The other employee looked like they were about to spontaneously combust, and I just couldn't watch them suffer. "Excuse me," I said, stepping forward with a polite smile. "I'm actually heading that way. I can just walk you over if you like." Her eyes narrowed slightly, like she was assessing the quality of my offer. Finally, she gave a grudging nod. "Fine, but wait here, I need to get a cart." And then began the great cart inspection of 2024. She meticulously examined at least 5 different carts, jostling wheels, scrutinizing the bottoms before finally deeming one worthy. My initial helpfulness chip was already starting to corrode, but hey, I offered. Off we went, me leading the way, Lady and her son trailing behind. Or more accurately, Lady stopping every 10 feet to pick up a random package of socks, or contemplate a display of seasonal candy, while her poor kid tugged on her sleeve, clearly bored out of his mind. I tried to maintain my polite silence, but inside I was groaning. My break was ticking away, and this leisurely stroll was testing my patience. "Just get to the toys, Lady." Finally, blessed relief, we hit the toy section. "All right," I said, gesturing vaguely towards the aisles brimming with plastic. "It's all down here. You should find what you're looking for." I offered another quick smile and started to make my escape, my mission complete. That's when it happened. I'd barely taken 3 steps when I heard her shout, "Hey, where are you going?" I turned, utterly bewildered. I was just heading back to my section. Did you need more help?" Her face was contorted in a sudden, furious scowl. "You're just going to abandon us. You're just like all these other rude kids. My son is impatient because of you." What? I actually looked around to see if she was talking to someone else. "Lady, I just walked you all the way here," I said, my voice trying to stay calm but tinged with disbelief. "I don't even work in this section." "Don't you dare lie to me," she shrieked, now power walking to catch up. Other shoppers were starting to stare. "You tried to lose me. You probably dragged me through the wrong aisles on purpose, and you think I didn't see you jostle me back there. You assaulted me." My jaw almost hit the polished concrete. "Assaulted you? Lady, I just helped you." I felt a flush creeping up my neck. This was insane. I tried to just keep walking, thinking if I ignored her she'd calm down. Bad idea. She surged forward, her hand clamping down on my bicep like a vice. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Don't you dare walk away from me, you little liar. Before I could even process it, she shoved me hard, sending me stumbling a couple steps. Adrenaline shot through me. This wasn't just yelling anymore, she was physically assaulting me. Get your hands off me, I yelled, scrambling away from her. My only thought was to get to a safe spot, preferably somewhere with actual employees. I sprinted towards the electronics counter, where a couple of my actual coworkers were now staring, wide-eyed. She was right behind me like a bloodhound, still shrieking. Help! This man assaulted me. He tried to lie to me and he pushed me. He's a menace. The poor kid was just standing there, utterly mortified, watching his mother go full banshee mode. My coworkers, God bless them, looked from my shaken face to the screaming woman, clearly bewildered. They ushered me behind the counter as she slammed her hands on it, continuing her tirade. He needs to be fired. He needs to be arrested. He robbed me. Robbed her, I almost laughed through my fear. She's out of her mind. I gasped to my colleague, trying to catch my breath and explain the surreal turn of events. Just then my manager, Brenda, arrived, drawn by the commotion. Brenda's approach, she tried the calm, soothing tone. Ma'am, what seems to be the problem? But Lady wasn't having it. She just ratcheted up her performance, clutching her arm and dramatically limping. This thug, he assaulted me. He twisted my arm and shoved me. And he was trying to steal my purse, the purse that was still clutched in her hand. Brenda gave me a quick, confused look. Is this true, Op? No, Brenda. I just walked her to the toy section because she couldn't find it, and she just snapped. Brenda, bless her analytical mind, immediately went to the back. When she came back, her face was grim. She'd clearly checked the security footage. The puzzle pieces clicked for her. The lady hadn't recognized me as not an employee because I'd been too helpful. Just as Brenda was about to speak, 2 police officers walked into the store, probably called by a panicked customer or one of my quick-thinking coworkers. Lady, seeing them, immediately turned her fury on the new audience. Officers, thank goodness, this man attacked me. He's a danger, he needs to be arrested now. She gestured wildly at me. The officers, seasoned pros, tried to get her to calm down, asking for her side of the story. She launched into an even more exaggerated version, complete with dramatic gasps and claims of excruciating pain. When they politely suggested I didn't look like I worked there, she immediately shifted targets. Don't tell me you're covering for him too. I want your badge numbers. I'm suing all of you. Brenda stepped forward, holding up a tablet. Officers, I have the security footage right here. She showed them the recording, me politely offering help, me patiently walking her, me trying to leave, her chasing me, her grabbing me, and finally her shoving me. The whole insane ballet, clear as day. Lady's face fell, but only for a second before she tried to backtrack. He edited that, it's fake, he's still a liar. One of the officers, a no-nonsense woman, looked at her coldly. Ma'am, the video clearly shows you physically assaulting this young man. If you don't calm down and leave this store immediately, you will be arrested for assault and disturbing the peace. The threat of handcuffs finally seemed to penetrate her delusion. She sputtered, grabbed her still wide-eyed son, and stalked out, grumbling threats under her breath. Brenda apologized profusely, assuring me they'd ban her from the store. My coworkers, after Brenda confirmed I was okay, broke into relieved chuckles, shaking their heads at the sheer absurdity of it all. I, however, still felt like my knees were made of jelly. The police took my statement, thanked me, and then left. I clocked out early, my shift utterly destroyed. As I walked out into the cool evening air, still buzzing with adrenaline, I actually felt a pang of sympathy for that kid. I hope he learned something that day, maybe not don't trust strangers. But definitely, sometimes, even when you're trying to help, people can be absolutely unhinged. And maybe, just maybe, don't act like your mom. Another day, another dollar, right? Except this one came with a side of assault charges. Stay safe out there, Redditors. You never know who's waiting to turn your good deed into a full-blown crisis.
If you liked this video, you'll want to check this one out next.